I'm
It
getting a
is,
notice. It says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
yes, yes. Woohoo! Yay! That's working. Yes, that's working.
That is hilarious.
I shouldn't say that. They're wonderful. They're wonderful.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And I'm going to kill that too as well. So there that is. And hey, everybody, we're live. If you haven't been able to tell now, we're both live on. We're live.
And I'm going to kill that too.
We're live not only
There that is
on YouTube, we're also live on Facebook for the first time simultaneously. And it is my pleasure to welcome the 50th mayor of Oakland and my longtime friend for, I think it's more like 32 years or 31, Libby. Okay.
Yeah.
Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf.
More than 3 decades.
Yeah, that's right. But you know what? You're only 28, so hey, you're doing better. You're doing better than I am. Ms. Mayor, how are the police defunding matter? First of all, your thoughts on its progress and a kind of a subset as befits our time on this earth. It seems to me that there was a time when we did finance social services and then we decoupled them. Is this more like a replacement? How should we evaluate what's happening? Thanks.
Well, I think we have an intersection of 2 really crimes against humanity. One is just the increasing clear evidence of racial bias embedded in policing and the abuse of power and authority, the abuse of the entire criminal justice system and the prison pipeline. The awareness of that, coupled with the fact that years ago, we stopped investing in the social safety net, in mental health services, in public health, in everything that is restorative for people. And I think you and I probably remember when Prop 13 passed and how we all felt that that was kind of the end of the social contract in many ways, because it was really divesting from government, which is the social good, right? Government is where we try and codify morality. Government is where we honor the community, not the individual. And that's I think what has suffered over these many years, and particularly under this horrific president in the White House, the just complete obliteration of any sense of compassion, any sense of justice, any sense of morality. I think all those things have kind of come to a head at the same time and created a very powerful and long-awaited movement for change.
Do you see that, I understand it was a 2-year process. Can you clarify for us how this process works? Because there are a lot of conflicting signals as to where we are as a city, and some people saying that there was no defunding, others saying it's a shift. There's 150 million going to Black communities. What's the proper way to think about what's happening?
I think a lot of people prefer to focus on what we want as opposed to the taking away of resources, as opposed to the investing in what our priorities are. And so I think a lot of people are using the term reimagine public safety. And that is a really important framing, because people want to be safe. They also want to be able to know that when they need help and they call for it, it will come. But we also have to recognize that for so many people, and especially for Black men, other people of color, but especially for Black men, police do not give them a sense of safety. In fact, just the opposite. And we've had tragedy after tragedy, horror after horror that has made that a very clear reality.
Hey,
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think though it's also our responsibility to go through this transformation in a way that's responsible and also invites the community to co-create this new system with us. There's always going to be anger and passion, and there's going to be a push to do radical things. And that is important. That energy, that voice is very important. And especially in Oakland, where we have such a long, proud history of celebrating protest, of being a place for radical social movements. And we also want the public to be fully informed, to make these decisions, not just based on the passion of the moment, but an actual analysis, so we know what we're giving up and what we're getting for it. And that's why I think Oakland is doing this right. We did respond to an immediate demand to defund the police. We cut more than $14 million. That is unprecedented. That is a significant cut. We moved certain functions out of the police department that had been there forever. And we started a year ago beginning the process of creating an alternative 911 response resource that was not a gun and a badge, but really community-led, trauma-informed caretakers that were going to bring a whole different kind of response. And I'm very proud. I think Oaklanders should know we started this process a year ago. What so many cities are talking about in the wake of George Floyd's murder, Oakland had already begun this work. And that is very exciting to me. This next phase of having a community-led task force to actually analyze what a 50% cut to the police department would look like. What would it impact? How would services be different? Is this really what people want? And how would that money be spent on other more, caretaking, trauma-informed, community-based supports? That really is work that should not be done in the heat of the moment with no information, no analysis, but really in partnership with the community in a transparent way so that everyone can see what the choices are in front of us.
Will we see a Black police chief? You mentioned black male, and we haven't had a Black police chief in quite a while. So I was wondering, is that a possibility?
I think it is a very strong possibility. Now, this will be the first police chief hiring process that will be led by our new police commission. And so just so you know how it works, they conduct the search process. They do the initial sets of interviews, and then they advance to me at least 3 finalists. It is true that I can select one of those, or I can reject them all and ask the police commission to kind of start the process again, or to send other finalists. This is going to be the first time we're doing this. So far, I feel like I think we will be quite aligned in how to move forward. And obviously, understanding the historic really horror that police and these kind of patrols played in perpetuating slavery, in perpetuating racism. I mean, this is the real history. And Oakland also has egregious abuses that our police department has been absolutely found guilty of. So this is not theoretical or historical. This is something that is a real wound that our community has. And I certainly think that a leader of color is going to be in a much better place to advance that healing and bring a transformation to the department.
Also, you mentioned Black men, and I just wanted to, out of respect for your time, share a very quick story that even happened to me. And this was coming back from one of my favorite places that the governor knows, the Balboa Cafe, since he was part owner. And I was with Bill O'Keefe and some other people. This is and a guy tailgating me at 80 miles per hour on the bridge. I don't know why to this day. So I saw a highway patrol officer car in the middle of the way of the thoroughfare there on the eastbound, excuse me. And I flagged him down. I got in front of him. And so I'm pointing at the guy like, go out, get that guy, instead of him taking off to get whoever that was, who was doing 80. Okay. And I'm doing like 65. They stay behind me. When we get to the off, they flash their lights. I said, hey, did you see Mike? He goes, don't worry, I'm going to have you out of this. Has me do this. And I thought, are you serious? So just spontaneously, because of the way I'm wired, tears started coming down. And he said, oh, you're going to do that, huh? And he grabbed my whole body, he body slammed me on the squad car of his highway patrol car. Okay. I know too many black men who have stories like that. Then they wrote that that I delayed the arrest. I'm thinking, why? Because I'm a hood ornament on your car, right? And my mother, Ralph Grant, who you may know, they all tried to get me. They said they couldn't find me. I was there at Santa Rita, okay? It was a complete nightmare. And so my point is that, excuse me for that, Ms. Mayor, but my point is that, that we all have these stories. At what point do they stop when people start assuming that because we're black, we can be violated by the police and they take action on it? I mean, without fail, okay? And then just move forward in our lives just normally. I think it's happening, but it can't happen fast enough for some of us. Just wanted to say that.
Well, and that's why I think there's a very legitimate movement to abolish police. I think there's a feeling that this culture is so embedded, that so much harm has already been done, that it is going to be hard to repair that and heal that and transform this long-time institution into something that really means justice and safety for everyone. And that's the conversation our community has to have. You know, I also want to recognize that officers do save lives, they do prevent crime, they do help, they come when people call. You know, I've witnessed that over these years as well. And so to hold both of these truths and lived experiences is the place that we sit in right now. How we move forward from that, I think, is something that we need to do in partnership with the community. And I think that the council's creating this task force with a very specific charge is a really productive way to advance that conversation in this moment. But Zenny, I am so, like, that should never have happened to you. And I've heard that story so many times, and not just from people that live in other parts of the country. You think that Oakland is this progressive, you know, it's always been a Black city, like that's part of our legacy and our identity. You would think that that doesn't happen here, and it does. We know that. I do want to acknowledge, I think there are many things that we've done that show we are improving, but I also want to respect that people have every right to say it's not fast enough, it's not enough, and that there needs to be something that's much more of a radical transformation. Zenny, you know, I, like you, I love interviewing people and hearing their stories. Maybe I caught that from you. I really enjoyed doing a series of interviews called Oakland Stories. And the first one I did was with Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt. And she talks about her, I think she was about to graduate from Harvard, and she had a very similar experience happen to her, just outrageous. And to hear her tell that story and how that really started her on this incredible journey of looking not just at explicit racial bias, but implicit or subconscious racial bias, and how that actually can be addressed as well, and that it is just as insidious as far as its impacts on actual outcomes as, you know, the express racist. In fact, in some ways it's more dangerous because people don't think they have a problem, and yet this infects everyone's decision making. So that was a great interview for me. I don't know if anyone has people now have time to read
Yeah,
books.
yeah.
That book, Bias, it's a great book. She talks a lot about her work with the Oakland Police Department. Again, it shows that there is a lot of work to do, but that this is one department that is willing to do it, that's willing to have some uncomfortable conversations, that is willing to publish the data, to really shine a light on what those statistics are. She did this other thing, Zenny, that I think you'd find really interesting, where she found a way to analyze the just the audio of the body worn camera footage using machine learning. So, you know, because it would take a human being like thousands and thousands of hours to listen to it all, but to look for certain word choices and patterns. And again, she found that even as far as being respectful, using things like madam and sir versus are you on probation or parole, that the language that officers used with Black versus non-Black residents was very different. It conveyed respect or disrespect. Regardless of what the actual outcome of that encounter was, Black men in particular were much more likely to walk away feeling that they had been disrespected. So that's the kind of awareness and more training that we have got to engage in if we are going to keep this institution of policing.
Now, on a good mood note, change Skyline, there's this fantastically talented young lady who's a great Skyline, great example of Skyline. And excuse me, I'm trying to make sure I've got her, and it's there. And right there is Eleanor, right there in the screen, if you can see that. She's Harvard bound, Skyline High School senior, the first California Intercollegiate Athletic Foundation Scholar Athlete of the Year ever from Oakland, and the United Nations 75th Anniversary Charter representative. And so, Libby, how awesome is that? What do you think about that?
I mean, that's about as awesome as it gets. I mean, yeah. She's like the Renaissance woman of Oakland.
Yeah.
Or what do we say, a baller? I mean, and she's amazing. We're like, it's been so, I feel like the last few years, people are recognizing just like how much talent, how much beauty is in our city.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, have you been watching Last Chance U?
I'm going to watch that again tonight. I've gotten a number of my bloggers who actually talked about it ahead of me. So I'm embarrassed, but I have to honestly say that everybody's ahead of me on it.
Well, do you remember? So when I went to Skyline, Coach Beam was the assistant football coach at Skyline. Like when we were in high school, he was there.
Yeah.
He claims he remembers me. I don't know. But anyway, it's been awesome to just watch like just the talent, the grit, the resilience of Oaklanders being lifted up. And my goodness, Eleanor, like she, I mean, I hope we have a woman president before she gets old enough to run, but like that woman is bound for greatness. And how proud are we that she is a daughter of Oakland?
Yes.
So just shout out to Eleanor. I'm going to start a fan club.
All right. And before we go, Howard Terminal, where are we at with that?
Well, listen, coronavirus has slowed down a lot of things, and Howard Terminal is no exception. But the operative word there is slowed down. It is still absolutely moving forward. Everything is still like chugging along. We're still going through all of the different, it's a complicated project. Community benefits are going to be really important, but all that work is continuing. And I think it also is exciting. There's a lot more serious talk also about the Coliseum land and how that can be a much more community serving type development for East Oakland. So while again, coronavirus has slowed everything down, it has not stopped. And from my perspective, the A's are just as rooted in Oakland as they were before this pandemic.
Well said. Hey, Ms. Mayor, don't go anywhere. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll be back later for more on Zenny 62 YouTube. But right now that ends the live part of our broadcast and everything else. And so, and Ms. Mayor, thank you so very much. And I'll ping you in 1 second. Just thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Zenny. Thank you for everything you do. You're amazing. The original vlogger, the original blogger, the original Zenny Abraham, one and only from Oakland.
I'm getting old.
We all are. The alternative is worse.
That's true.
All
Well, I'm
right,
getting
my
younger.
brother.
No, just kidding. I'll see you.
Take care.
Okay, see you. See you.